Good evening. Vice President Sara Duterte says the country must now move forward, admitting the possibility that her father, former President Rodrigo Duterte, might not be able to return home while in the custody of the International Criminal Court. In a briefing on Thursday, March 20, the Vice President was asked what she feels about National Security Advisor Eduardo Año, who formerly served under her father's cabinet, on his alleged role in having the former president arrested upon his return to the Philippines. The Vice President says it is now pointless to harbor any feelings about his father's arrest.
Sa totoo lang, wala talaga akong nararamdaman. Hindi ako galit, hindi ako disappointed. Nothing at all. Kasi pointless naman na mag-harbor ako ng feelings about what happened. Hindi na siya maibabalik. Hindi na mababalik si Pangulong Duterte sa Pilipinas.
The Vice President then says the country should move on and determine what its next steps will be.
So what we should do as a country is move on from what happened. No? What will we do as our ways forward as a country and as a people from what happened? Magalit man tayo, walang papupuntahan yung galit natin.
During the Senate probe on the former president's arrest, Año says that he has developed a close friendship with the former president, but he maintains that his loyalty remains to the country and not to any person. Año also denies that he was part of a grand conspiracy that hatched the plan of Duterte's arrest, nor that there is a group planning such. The ICC currently has custody of the former president after he was arrested and sent to The Hague for crimes against humanity he allegedly committed during his administration's war on drugs. He is scheduled for his confirmation of charges before the court on September 23, 2025. Vice President Sara Duterte maintains it is her responsibility as the country's second highest official to ensure her father's return to the country from his arrest by the International Criminal Court. The Vice President's statement comes after Presidential Communications Office Undersecretary Claire Castro reminded her on Wednesday, March 19, that she must consider that the country also needs her as the Vice President. Vice President Duterte says she understands Palace's reminder to her.
I perfectly understand that. In fact, hindi ko naman din gusto talaga na magstay dito, no? Dahil ang mga anak ko, ang pamilya ko ay nandyan sa Pilipinas at ang trabaho ko ay nandyan sa Pilipinas. Pero as Vice President, may duty din ako sa isang kababayan natin, isang Filipino citizen who is held against his will dito sa ICC Detention Center.
Referring to her father, former President Rodrigo Duterte, as a Filipino citizen, the Vice President notes that it is her duty to bring a fellow countryman back to the country.
This was patently an illegal arrest. This constitutes extraordinary rendition. A Filipino citizen, a former president, was taken into custody without a valid warrant issued by a Philippine court, without due process, and without any legal basis under our laws. For an arrest to be lawful, it must be carried out pursuant to a warrant issued by a Filipino judge of a Philippine court.
The Vice President also says that she continues to perform her duties as Vice President online. The ICC currently has custody of former President Duterte after he was arrested and sent to The Hague for crimes against humanity he allegedly committed during his administration's war on drugs. In an interview with reporters in The Hague on March 14, the Vice President said she would not return to the Philippines until her father's legal team is formed and another relative joins them in The Hague. Vice President Sara Duterte is decrying the alleged warrantless arrest of her father, former President Rodrigo Duterte. The Vice President made a virtual appearance on Thursday, March 20, during the Senate panel on Foreign Affairs probe on the former president's arrest. The Vice President claims that her father was forcibly taken by the Philippine National Police upon his arrival in Manila from Hong Kong. The Vice President argues that without a valid warrant from a Philippine court, what transpired to her father was a warrantless arrest.
This was patently an illegal arrest. This constitutes extraordinary rendition. A Filipino citizen, a former president, was taken into custody without a valid warrant issued by a Philippine court, without due process and without any legal basis under our laws. For an arrest to be lawful, it must be carried out pursuant to a warrant issued by a Filipino judge of a Philippine court.
According to the Vice President, even by International Criminal Court standards, the former president should have been brought before a Philippine judge to determine the validity of arrest before he was handed over to a foreign court. Former President Duterte was served an arrest warrant from the ICC upon arriving at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport from Hong Kong on March 11. The arrest warrant was issued on the grounds of alleged crimes against humanity he committed for the anti-drug campaign he orchestrated when he was still in power. The palace says the arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte was in accordance with the law. In a briefing on Thursday, March 20, Presidential Communications Undersecretary Claire Castro was asked to comment on Senator Amy Marcos's statement that the Philippines surrendered the former president to foreigners. Duterte was arrested on March 11 by virtue of an arrest warrant from the International Criminal Court. The Senate panel on Foreign Affairs conducted its probe on Thursday into the former president's arrest. Citing Republic Act 9851, Castro points out that the arrest of the former president was legal.
Okay, sabi niya, bakit natin isinuko ang Pilipino ba o dating Pangulo? Ang dating sa isang dayuhan. Ito naman po ay nasa batas. RA 9851. Hindi po natin nilalabag ang anumang batas. Kung mayroon pong dapat na managot, katulad ng sinabi natin, hindi po ba dapat lamang na panagutin? Ang ginamit po na batas, ang RA 9851, nandun po na sinasabi na maaari nating isuko. O ulitin po natin to Doon sa Section 17, sinasabi po na to extradite or to surrender to the International Court.
Castro also says the country can surrender anyone to the International Court.
Maliwanag po, kahit po si Justice Carpio ay ipiniliwanag po ito na maaari po nating isurrender ang sinuman sa International Court. Ibig sabihin, hindi po tayo kailangan na mayroong treaty or extradition treaty na pag-uusapan. Basta ang nilagay po lamang doon ay to surrender to the International Court. At yun lamang po ang tinutupad natin.
The former president is currently under the custody of ICC. He's scheduled to face his charges before the court over his alleged crimes against humanity during his administration's war on drugs. President Bongbong Marcos continues to trust Solicitor General Guevarra. This comes after Guevarra recused himself in representing the government in the habeas corpus petitions filed by the children of former President Rodrigo Duterte. In a briefing on Thursday, March 20, Presidential Communications Undersecretary Claire Castro says the President did not ask for Guevarra's resignation following his recusal from the case.
Nagkausap po sila at nakausap ko rin po ang Pangulo patungkol dyan at sinasabi niya po na hindi naman po nawawala ang kanyang tiwala kay Solgen Minardo Guevarra. Nung tinanong ko po siya kung magre-resign po si Solgen, ang sabi niya, hindi ko hinihingi ang pagre-resign niya. So yun lang po yung sinabi niya. So nandun pa rin po yung trust niya.
The International Criminal Court currently has custody of Duterte after he was arrested and sent to The Hague in the Netherlands to face trial for crimes against humanity he allegedly committed during his administration's drug war. The palace criticizes Senator Bato Dela Rosa for considering going into hiding amid a possible arrest warrant from the International Criminal Court. According to International Criminal Court Assistant to Counsel Attorney Cristina Conti, De La Rosa, along with another former Philippine National Police Chief Oscar Albayalde, could be the next to receive arrest warrants from the ICC. This is in relation with their roles in former President Rodrigo Duterte's drug war. As Duterte's former top cop, De La Rosa spearheaded the war on drugs. De La Rosa previously said he is already considering hiding as one of his courses of actions once an ICC warrant is issued against him. In a briefing on Thursday, March 20, Presidential Communications Office Undersecretary Claire Castro questions De La Rosa's pronouncements, noting his position as the former PNP chief. Castro says the government does not support De La Rosa's plans.
Nakakapagtaka lamang po na siya ay dati pang PNP chief. Yan po ba ang gusto niya ring ipahiwatig sa taong bayan na kapag may warrant of arrest ay dapat magtago? Well, anyway, sabi po natin, hindi natin sinasang-ayunan ang ganong klase pong paniniwala at kanyang nais gawin. Hindi po ito makakabuti sa mga kababayan natin na mismong leader natin ay hindi haharapin ang anumang kaso o complaint na naisampa o maisasampa laban sa kanya.
Castro also slams Dela Rosa for allegedly abandoning the former president who had already been arrested and transferred to the ICC headquarters in The Hague, Netherlands.
At hindi po ba sabi natin, parang siya nga yata ang medyo umiwan sa kay dating Pangulong Duterte considering na hindi siya pumunta sa Hong Kong kasama sa nila. Hindi po ba dapat ang kaibigan ay walang iwanan?
Castro further says that the PNP will assist in locating and arresting their former chief once a warrant of arrest has been served. The Vatican says Pope Francis has suspended the use of an oxygen mask, adding that the 88-year-old's clinical condition was improving after more than 1 month in hospital. In an update on early Thursday morning, Manila time, the Vatican says the Pope's clinical condition is confirmed to be improving. It adds that the Holy Father has suspended non-invasive mechanical ventilation and also has less need of high-flow oxygen therapy. The Vatican also says that the Pope's motor and respiratory physiotherapy is continuing to make progress. The Pope's doctors caution that although the Pope's lung infections are under control, it is not entirely eliminated. Furthermore, the Vatican says that Pope Francis' discharge from hospital was not imminent. The Argentine Pope has been in Rome's Gemelli Hospital since February 14, suffering from pneumonia in both lungs. And these are the stories you need to know today. I'm Neil Mercado. Follow INQUIRER.net on Facebook, X, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Reddit. For more stories, visit INQUIRER.net. Good evening.